Welcome, everyone, to a little bit of light. Tonight's learning is in memory of those that were murdered almost 2 weeks ago on Shmini Atzeres. It should be a merit for refuah shlema, for speed, for a complete recovery for those who were wounded, those who were wounded in body and in spirit. It should be a merit for the return of those who have been taken captive. So the title of tonight's talk is The Footsteps of Moshiach. And I'd like to share with you some thoughts that is based on the writings of Rabbi Chanavasa Zatzal and how he lays out things. He begins by saying that Jewish history has different periods, and there's going to be a period that is described in the Talmud as Ikvasa de Mashiach, which means literally Ikvasa means the heel of Mashiach, but it means the footsteps of Mashiach. There'll be a point where we are in a period of the footsteps of Mashiach. Mashiach is close by. This period is also called Chevle Mashiach. That we find these words also in the Talmud. And Chevle Mashiach are translated as the birth pangs of Mashiach. This period is going to be a very, very difficult period for the Jewish people. And let me share with you how, from the book of Daniel, chapter 12, describes what will be the situation then. Ube'esahi, at that time, Yamud Michal Asar Agadol, Michal the great prince, referring to the angel Michal, Ha'omed al bnei Amecha, who stands besides the sons of your people, who stands to advocate and protect the Jewish people. Vayisa eis tzara, it shall be a time of trouble. Asher lo niyasa miyois goy arois hahi, the likes of which has never been since the nation came into being. A time of trouble that never was before. Ubeis hahi yimolet amacha klanimtza kasu b'sefer. And at that time, your people will be rescued, or they were found inscribed in the book. Commentary of Malbim says, those who will be saved are those who are righteous and those who have merits. That's the commentary of the Malbim. The commentary of Mesidus David says something fascinating. And he's going on the part of the verse that says, V'ha'isa eis tzara, there shall be a time of trouble, the likes of which has never been since the nation came into being. Writes in Mesidus David, as tia eis tzara al Yisrael, will be a time of trouble for the Jewish people. Asher niyasa aleya meis haisa l'goy aro eis hahi, that never was from the time the Jewish people came into a nation until that time of trouble. And where will that trouble come from? Mamlechus Yishmael yetzer lahem ba'id. The kingdom of Yishmael will cause them great trouble. The descendants of Yishmael, it's not Mesidus David alone who writes this, many sources have this, that our final travails before Mashiach comes will come at the hands of Yishmael, descendants of Yishmael. Now, so there you see already from the book of Daniel in Tanakh, the description of this period, again, the period before Mashiach comes, as the period of a time of trouble, the likes that the Jewish people have never seen since they became a people. Now, this period is not a period that necessarily it's a period that can last over time. I believe the Chavetz Chaim said that this period of Ikvasa de Mashiach, of the footsteps of Mashiach, started before World War II. I think he said World War I, I'm not sure. But it started in the last century. And it's a period that has its process. And the book of Daniel tells us that process as a whole will be something that the Jewish people will be suffering in a way they never suffered before. Perhaps he means a specific time, but he is referring to this period. The Rebbe Chanan says he's referring to this period of time, and a period of time that altogether will be a time that the Jewish people have never experienced since they came into a people. Now, the Talmud and Sanhedrin, to get another sense of how difficult the Chevle Mashiach, the footsteps of Mashiach, the birth pangs of Mashiach, how difficult will it be? So we have the Talmud in Sanhedrin, Tzadik Chesamid Beis, 98b. Omar Ula, the sage Ula stated, Yea say, let Mashiach come, V'loi ichmine, but let it be that I won't see him. He was saying this because the discussion of the Talmud there is the Chavle Mashiach. The troubles are precede Mashiach. He says, I want Mashiach to come, but I don't want to be there when it happens. I don't want to be there as it happens. It's going to be too difficult. V'chein Amar Rabba, you have another sage, Rabba, who said the same thing. Let him come, but I won't see him. Rabbi Yosef Amar, Rabbi Yosef says, Yesi, let him come. V'iski de'esi betula de kofisa de chamre, and I'll be privileged to sit in the shadow of his donkey's dung. Even according to Rabbi Yossi, this final opinion that he wants to be there, he knows it's going to be rough. Just look at the analogy, the metaphor that he used. To sit in the shadow of the donkey's dung. Clearly, very, very difficult time, very difficult period. And again, these are concepts that are not easy fully to understand. But as Rabbi Chanan brings, and as many bring, these are all describing the period closest to Mashiach. Now, so this is pretty rough. I want to share with you what Rabbi Chanan brings down from the Vilna Gaon that actually has some encouraging words to him, to this. So the Vilna Gaon writes, Ha'geula nikras leida. The redemption of the coming Mashiach is referred to as a birth. It cites a pasuk, cites a verse in the book of Yeshaya, Samachalaf, Isaiah 61. Chala, the Jewish people have suffered travails. V'gam yoldet Zion, and Zion has also given birth. So we see that the analogy of Mashiach, the analogy to giving birth. Ha'am ha'ivri yulad oz mechadash. The Jewish people will be renewed. Ukashem shamach oivim. And the same way as pains, chavle leida, the birth pangs of birth, the labor pains, mevasrim es haleda, they announce, they let us know that the birth is coming. And they actually get worse the closer we get to the birth. So too, the birth pangs, the travails that we'll suffer before Mashiach, they will precede. And in greeting Mashiach and in announcing Mashiach, letting Mashiach know that Mashiach is going to come, the birth pangs will get more difficult and more difficult. But from the words of the Gaon, we see that this is part of a process. Our suffering is part of a process that culminates with the coming of Mashiach. Why does it have to be this way? I guess that's a different discussion. But it's important to understand that this period of Chevel Mashiach, of the birth pangs of Mashiach, are birth pangs. They're terrible pain that's preceding a beautiful birth. And I say this in light, of course, of the terrible tragedy that befell the Jewish people almost 2 weeks ago, and the trouble and the suffering that we are still enduring. It's very real, it's very painful. And it's important to know that this is part of a process. This is part of a process that the Jewish people have to go to before Mashiach comes. Does this mean that this terrible thing that happened, Mashiach is coming right after that? We don't know that. And we understand also that even after what has happened described as nothing like this since the Holocaust. And I think there's even ways of talking about this in a way that what happened in Eretz Yisrael in the south of Israel was something that's unique on its own in many different ways. It's important to know that it's a part of a process that will culminate with the coming of Mashiach. Now, this doesn't mean that, this is a process and we just got to deal with it. We just got to go through it. No. The process has its responsibilities. This is a process. But in the process itself, there is what the process mandates us to do. It mandates us to pray, to come closer to God through prayer, to come closer to God through tshuva, through repentance, through increased acts of kindness, through increased Torah study. This process, each stage of the process, mandates that we deal with the process and work towards getting out of this stage of the process and hoping that this will be the stage, the final stage, before the birth, for the coming of Moshiach. I just want to conclude with verses from the book of Yirmiyah, the book of Jeremiah, Parak Lamed, chapter 30. Ve'ela devar mashadibar Hashem el Yisrael vel Yehuda. These are the words that God spoke concerning Israel and Judah. Ki choy amar Hashem, kol charada shamanu pachad ve'in shalom. Thus says God, we have heard cries of panic, terror without relief. Shalu no uru'u, im yoelad zochar. Madur re'isi kol geber yadaval chalatzav kayoyleda, v'nevcho kol panim li'erakon. Ask and see, surely males do not bear young. Why then do I see every man with his hands on his loins like a woman in labor? Why have all faces turned pale? Hoy ki gadol hayemahu me'in kamayu. Oh, that day is awesome. There is none like it. It is a time of trouble for Jacob. Umimeno yivashea, but he shall be delivered from it. There will be some very difficult times on the way to the birth of Moshiach. That will be a time of tzara, a time of trouble for Jacob. And we are now in a time of trouble for Jacob. But as the prophet promised us in the words of God, Umimeno yivashea, but he shall be delivered from it. He shall be delivered from it. May we see that very soon in the Eis Tzara Yaakov, in the time of trouble for Yaakov that we are experiencing right now. And may it be that this stage of the Chav of Mashiach, of the birth pangs of Mashiach, should be enough. The Mashiach should come, b'meher v'yameinu, quickly in our days. This has been a little bit of light. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Thank you for listening.